Okay, good afternoon. We are delighted that you've joined us for today's program for prospective students entitled Introducing Human-Centered Engineering at Boston College. My name is John Mahoney. I'm the Vice Provost for Enrollment Management. I will be the moderator for this afternoon's session. Beginning in the fall of 2021, Boston College will offer a new major in engineering, specifically human-centered engineering. This department will reside in our Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences. Students who wish to apply for the human-centered engineering major will indicate this in a drop-down menu of majors for the Morrissey College when they apply to Boston College. Also, instead of responding to one of our standard supplementary essay prompts in the application, we're going to offer a specific prompt for those students applying to the human-centered engineering major. If you would like an early look at all of our supplementary essay prompts for this year, you can view them now on the undergraduate admission website. We also encourage you to visit the recently completed human-centered engineering website at bc.edu. If you go to the alphabetical index on that website, go to E under engineering, and it will take you to human-centered engineering. We're limiting our first cohort of human-centered engineering majors to just 25 students, so admission to this program is going to be highly competitive. Because the first cohort is so small, preference will be given to students who apply through our Early Decision 1 or Early Decision 2 programs. The deadlines for these programs are November 1 and January 1, respectively. Students applying through regular decision will also be considered for the remaining openings at that time. Finally, I'll note that once we've enrolled our first class in the fall of 2021, the entering cohort of human-centered engineering majors will then be increased to 50 students per year, and we will have a steady state enrollment within that human-centered engineering major of 200 students across 4 years. That's the plan. At this point, it is my pleasure to introduce this afternoon's panelists. I'm going to begin with Thomas Childs. Professor Childs is the DeLuca Professor of Biology and Vice Provost for Research and Academic Planning at Boston College. The Reverend Gregory Kalsher is Dean of the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences and Professor of Law at Boston College. Sunanda Bhattacharya is Associate Vice Provost for Design and Innovation Strategy, and Siddharthan Govindasamy is currently Associate Professor of Electrical and Computer Engineering at Olin College, but he will be joining Boston College's faculty later this summer. I'm going to begin by posing a series of questions to our panelists, and we invite you, as the session moves along, to submit your own questions through the Q&A function on Zoom. We'll try to get to as many of those questions as we can before we wrap up at 5 o'clock this afternoon. And again, thanks so much for joining us. My first question, I think I'm going to address to Tom Childs and Father Kalsher, perhaps, and the question is the obvious one. Why is Boston College starting an engineering program, and why is it called human-centered engineering? Tom, would you go first?
Sure. Well, thank you, John, for that introduction. And I want to thank everyone for, I guess, zooming in today and expressing your interest in our program. It's a real honor to be here this afternoon with you. So, John, to answer that first part of that question, there's really three components to that answer. The first is what I recognized many years ago, and my colleagues in the natural sciences at Boston College recognized that within the faculty ranks at the university, within our very strong doctoral granting programs in the natural sciences, as well as computer science and math, we knew that faculty in their research was making an impact. But there was an aspect of it that we realized that we needed to build upon, and that was to provide the faculty a more applied type nature to their research so that the discoveries they make, along with the undergrads and the graduate students at BC in the research labs, those discoveries could be translated into solutions that would impact the world in a time frame that would give us meaningful results. So from a research standpoint within the faculty ranks and the student body, we wanted to have that applied nature so that what we were doing on this campus would be translated externally into the world to make a difference. The other aspect, which is, I think, probably one of the most important, if not the most important, what I've seen here since I arrived at BC, if you can believe this, in 1992, is the type of student now, much like those that have Zoomed in with us this afternoon, the type of students that are interested in our university and are interested in our science programs are coming to this university now with clear ideas of ways they want to impact the world, and a passion and a desire to impact the world. And we recognize that in part, it's our responsibility to provide them the tools, the skill sets, and the knowledge to take those ideas that they have, to allow them to develop and iterate those ideas, and maybe provide an infrastructure to even allow them to prototype those ideas and introduce those ideas while they're a student, perhaps at BC, into the world, so that, you know, they're not making an impact 4 years from now or 10 years from now or 15 years from now, but hopefully while they're here at BC. So it is in part in response to the high caliber of students we now have and their desires to really make a difference in the world now. And then the third has to do with, I think, a conviction all of us have on this campus, certainly the five of us on this Zoom call tonight, and that is the world today is facing very complicated, complex problems. And these problems impact people, societies, and the planet. And we think it's our responsibility as a university to try to address those problems by identifying solutions and then hopefully implementing those solutions that will allow us to move the needle, if you were, on some of these programs. So it really comes down to, I think, aligning much of what we do in the sciences and in engineering with our Jesuit Catholic mission. And that is really to impact the world and to be the university that steps up and says, you know, we're going to address these problems, and we're going to do it with our faculty and our talented students. So I think that's kind of the three motivating and driving forces.
Just to build on that, I really think the launch of a human-centered engineering program at BC is very much part of the mission of the university, or contributes to the mission of the university. As Tom was saying, I think we recognize the opportunity that the university has to really help educate students who will make a positive impact in the world, who will make a positive difference in the world. And I think that's been the focus of Jesuit education from the very start in the 1540s, to really help form students who will be prepared to live lives that can contribute to the common good, that can contribute to the greater good, that will promote the greater glory of God. And I think in our world, where there are so many complex problems that require a certain kind of problem-solving skill and design skill, an engineering program is very much the right thing for us to be doing at this point in terms of furthering our mission. In starting an engineering major, we wanted to do it in a distinctive way that does very much have its home in our mission. So we didn't want to start a separate engineering school, but we wanted to integrate engineering within the heart of the university in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences, and to think of engineering in this human-centered way, I think because of our mission. If we care deeply about who our students are becoming as people, who are they as human beings, thinking about engineering as a human-centered project, I think, is very much part of our mission. So the engineering major and the engineering department are part of the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences, with all the other liberal arts and sciences departments and majors. And we hope to help students understand engineering in a way that will clearly benefit people and be attentive to the issues that problem solving raises for people. How will projects impact people? And also, who are engineers becoming as people? Who are Boston College engineers becoming as human beings? So in all those different ways, I think the engineering major is intended to be human-centered, to give students the skills that they need to be great engineers, to make a positive difference in the world, while always being attentive to who are the people who are the recipients of this benefit, who are the people who are affected by this, and who's the engineer as a person who's engaging in all this, and how are they thinking about their life and their integrity and the range of people affected by what they do. So human-centered in all those ways.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Father. Siddharthan, maybe I would turn to you at this point, since Father Kalshar and Tom have really sort of laid out the vision for the human-centered engineering program, what the foundation of it is, and ask you, what is the curriculum going to look like in this new major at Boston College?
Thanks, John. So there are going to be a number of key features of this program. Firstly, as Father Kalshar mentioned, the program is housed in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences. There is going to be a strong focus on the liberal arts, and this will include a set of courses that satisfy the core requirement of the Morrissey College. And through these experiences, we hope that students will be able to expand their horizons, learn to think critically, and get a better understanding of how they can actually become more effective members of society. In addition to that, we will have a strong focus on human-centered design. And what we mean by this is that students will experience a set of courses and projects where they will learn how to work with stakeholder groups using design thinking approaches to develop user-oriented engineering solutions. So often you would see engineers who want to design something for a user group. They come up with some idea, it might be a great idea to them, and then they come up with a product or a service or something, and very late in the game is when they end up actually involving the users of that potential product. We would like to actually encourage students and develop skills and abilities for them to actually work with the user groups very early on, so that the engineers are not designing things for students, but rather for users, but rather designing with users. And this would result in much more effective interventions, strategies, products, etc., to address the needs of the world. The curriculum also includes strong foundational engineering experiences, and these include courses and experiences that include things that you would see in traditional engineering programs, but we plan to do it in an integrated fashion. This might include circuits, thermodynamics, computing, data science, and things of that sort. We intend for our students to actually be exposed to these things through active learning pedagogies. This includes problem and project-based learning and other approaches for active learning. And we hope that this will build a common base for which students can then go and take more advanced courses to expand their knowledge in a particular direction. So in addition to that, students will have actually opportunity to work on some real world projects. We are currently thinking that there will be 3 semesters of project-based experiences, one in their junior year and then 2 semesters of their senior year in a senior impact project, where students will integrate their skills and abilities that they developed through the prior 3 or 4 years on a real world project where we expect them to work with real user groups, actually on a project that involves humans, where they interact with humans and come up with solutions or products that help improve their lives. So all of this will be tied together in a series of reflection activities. These will be structured activities that happen every semester, and we've carved out time for it in the nominal schedule, where students will go through a set of exercises or activities that intend to tie together the things that they learned in all the different parts of the curriculum, as well as help them actually develop better appreciation of how technology and society integrates and intersects. And ultimately, we would like them to actually learn to think about and anticipate both the intended and unintended consequences of their actions in society.
Siddharthan, to me, it sounds extraordinarily exciting extraordinarily comprehensive and extraordinarily rigorous. That might lead me to call on my friend Sunand to ask, this human-centered engineering major and the students who opt for it, will they face any kind of curricular or programmatic limitations because this is such a rigorous major? What do you think about that, Sunand?
Thanks, John, and thanks, Siddharthan. So engineering is a demanding discipline, and there are no secrets about that. But having fun and being able to enjoy going through projects, which include engineering and other disciplines, is one of the cornerstones of our development process. And when we look at it, we're trying to balance three things over here. One is, what does BC require, or with good reasons, as a liberal arts college, as a Jesuit institutions, we have built a successful track of collection of courses and experiences within BC that every student goes through or, as a well-rounded, educated, contributing person for society. The next one is ABET. So we intend seeking ABET accreditation after the first cohort graduates from this program. ABET is the engineering accrediting body, and ABET has certain requirements in terms of what kinds of technical courses, what kind of math and sciences are included, and how they work with general education classes in terms of, and many of them are the liberal arts. So that's one part. And the third thing is the sign of the times. Things are changing, as we know. Technology is getting introduced left and right. We know that the classical engineering programs have all the fundamentals included in them. But when you look at the future, when you look at robotics, when you look at artificial intelligence, when you look at machine learning, we want our students also to be able to experience those things and go out into the world well-rounded with those abilities. So when we put all these things together, and as Tom mentioned, we want students to be able to build, make, prototype, test, which is an ability that we feel we can work very well with through a design-driven methodology and project-driven pedagogy. So will they have time to be able to do other extracurricular pieces that are very important in the preparation? I believe so, but time management is very important. And it's no different from pursuing medicine, nursing, or any other professional discipline. So to answer your question, John, yes, there will be some demands for the program, but we also hope that all the projects and the interdisciplinary collaboration will bring about students to be not just focused into their silo of engineering, but be able to appreciate their experience at a liberal arts college.
And just to kind of flesh that out a little bit more, I think our hope really is that students will experience the integration of a rigorous engineering program with the university core curriculum, and then with a distinctive Morrissey College requirement of demonstrating proficiency in a foreign language at the intermediate level. It's really integrating all of those things that makes this program complex structurally, but I think also very rich in terms of what we're trying to do. So a student will have the rigor of an engineering major. A student will also, like all students at Boston College, engage the core curriculum, theology, philosophy, history, literature, writing, math, science, social science, art, diversity, all the things that are part of the university core. And then distinctive to the Morrissey College is the foreign language requirement. And I think that's actually connected in ways to what I would imagine as human-centeredness, that when I try to explain to people why do we have a foreign language requirement in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences, it's really tied, I think, to having a sense of the fullness of what it is to be human, both as part of a global community, that there are more people in the world than English speakers, and also having a sense of the fullness of the human experience. Are we ready to engage a global world, and do we have a sense of the breadth of what it is to be a human being in today's world? So that foreign language piece, the university core curriculum, and the rigors of an engineering major make the program quite rigorous and demanding, but I also think quite rich and attractive, and very much what we want to do as an engineering program that's human-centered in the context of a Boston College liberal arts Jesuit education.
And just to follow up on what Greg just mentioned, balancing technical demands and technical fundamentals and rigor with some of the non-technical input that they get through the core renewal, etc., is a very important piece for us to focus upon. So we are trying to address those pedagogical requirements so that it's experiential and project-based rather than students going through a course-taking checklist. It's
Right.
important for them to be able to assimilate that, apply, and connect the dots in terms of why I did what I did at the end of the semester, as Siddharthan pointed out, the reflection sessions.
Great, thank you. Well, I think you can tell just from having heard responses to these first couple of questions that a lot of thought, a lot of planning has gone into designing this major. And when you think about it, there are engineering majors and schools across the country. So Boston College is being very intentional here. We're trying to do something new, something different. And if we're trying to do that, we also, I think, at the core of this initiative, we're trying to attract certain kinds of students to Boston College for this engineering major. Sanand, could you maybe continue this conversation by addressing that question? You know, we're obviously looking for really bright, talented, scientifically oriented, math capable students. But what kinds of students are we really hoping to attract to this major, this really unique human-centered engineering major? What do you envision being sort of the prototype student that we're looking for?
Sure. So no educational institution will be doing its job effectively if it does not take into account the mindset of its incoming students. That's one of the things that we at Boston College try to do at all times in terms of looking at this student who will be graduating in 2025. So what will the world be like in 2025? It's hard to predict everything, as we all well know today, but our effort has been in terms of understanding the kinds of students who come in, and in the 4 years' time when they graduate into that world, are we preparing them effectively or not? The second part of it is those students who are coming in. As we see today, schools, in fact, even the most underserved school, those students have changed, are changing. Their experiences are changing due to simple things like cell phones, media, etc. Tinkering, being able to make something, being able to invent something, if being able to create prototypes. It's happening in schools right now. Generation Z that's coming in to our system is actually much better prepared in terms of solving problems, in trying to create things. It may not be perfect, but they're attempting to prototype, make, create. And this is not just happening in the United States. It's happening in other parts of the world. So understanding that student, and that student coming in who has the aptitude to create, make for a better world, who has the science, aptitude towards science and math, to be able to handle those and apply those to developing concepts that will be tested, that they can realize, and then significantly help an end user or help the planet. That's the kind of student we wish to attract. There are great engineering schools all around us who are doing a wonderful job. What we are trying to do is bring those aspects into a liberal arts environment for the common good.
Thank you, Sanand. Well, obviously, this is going to have a, I think we've nicely outlined the academic component of this, and you've just alluded to the idea that we really want students to be imaginative, to be making things, to be doing things, and so that sort of leads, I think, to the next question. Where I'm on campus today. Father Culture is on campus today, but otherwise it's a completely abandoned campus. But there is lots of construction going on while students are away. We're looking forward to reopening in August, but there's lots of exciting things happening on this campus. So I might pivot to Tom Childs and ask, given all the building that's going on this campus right now, Tom, what kinds of facilities is Boston College going to offer in the fall of 2021 that will particularly lend themselves to these human-centered engineering majors that will be arriving here?
Well, I will add that I'm in my office at Boston College also. So this is Higgins Hall.
Okay.
And to my south and west is a new building that we're building, and I'll tell you about it in a minute. But you know, there's a couple of components to the type of core facilities, the research facilities, and the learning labs and studios that we will offer students. Currently, right now at BC, as many of you know, we have very strong programs in the natural sciences. We have doctoral granting programs in many of our natural science departments. We have strong mathematics, strong computer science department. We have entrepreneurial studios. We have the Shea Center for Entrepreneurship. We have state-of-the-art biomedical research facilities, physics facilities, chemical biology facilities, and the like. These facilities will continue to grow and build and maintain their state-of-the-art competitiveness, if you will. And students will have access to those labs, particularly as undergraduates when they're working on projects with faculty and in teams. We do envision in this major that students will be able to concentrate in specific new areas of engineering. Even though their degree will be in engineering sciences, they will be able to concentrate in specific areas. And those specific areas will not be siloed. There'll be areas that will branch into maybe physics or chemistry, biology, maybe both, as well as engineering. And so the facilities that we currently have will certainly be made available to allow students to not only learn, but also to create, as Sinan said, and to do their research. Perhaps what is most exciting for me, in addition to developing this engineering program, is the new building that we have designed to support engineering and to support many of the applied initiatives that we have on campus. So as you mentioned, John, Boston College is currently constructing about 160,000 square foot, 5-story research facility that will house the engineering department. It will also house our existing computer science department. It will house the Shea Center for Entrepreneurship. And embedded into that building will be maker spaces that Sinan has alluded to, prototype spaces, and certainly the engineering labs where students will learn the skills and the knowledge necessary to become engineers. This building, I believe, has few peers insofar as its design. It is designed to be flexible so that we can iterate the building as the curriculum iterates. And as Sinan just said, you know, the graduates in 2025 are going to be entering a world, and they'll need a skill set that will probably be different from graduates that enter the world in 2030 and 2035. This building is designed to be able to keep up with that pace and the changing technologies. The building is also designed to facilitate collaborations. And from a chemistry standpoint, what we want to do is to facilitate productive collisions between students and faculty, between students and staff, and the like. And because it's when students can collaborate, it's when students have the spaces to collaborate, to ideate, etc., that ideas come about. It's a building that is designed to be transparent. It has probably more glass on the outside and inside than any building we've built. And it's designed to be transparent so you can see what's going on. You can see what's being made. And it's designed to be welcoming for all students. We don't want a building that is just for engineers and just for scientists. We want a building that students, regardless of their major, theology, philosophy, economics, social sciences, political sciences, will come in and collaborate with the science students and the engineering students, collaborate and prototype and make. And so those facilities will be online in early January 2021, and they will be supporting the engineering program. And our engineering students will have access to state-of-the-art facilities that will allow them to make, and as Sinan said, and build and create. And it will really allow them to just build upon their curiosity. And these maker spaces will be open to everyone. So.
Thank you, Tom. So as Sunan and Tom have been answering these last couple of questions, here are some of the words that I've written down. Ideate, create, innovate, maker space, build, invent, design. Siddharthan, could I call upon you? What will the students in this major actually do or make or design as part of the human-centered engineering major?
So good question. So we actually expect them to be involved in many different stages of the design process. And this would take place through either a small number of classes in a single class or in their capstone experiences. So some of the activities they might be doing include doing like system analysis. This may be doing mathematical calculations, trying to figure out what types of materials might work, doing design, maybe using computer-aided tools, to doing prototyping and fabrication at different levels of fidelity. For example, an early stage product, you're trying to design something that will help somebody do X. You might actually create something out of cardboard and foam that has the approximate form factor and give it to the user and see how they feel. How does it look? How does it feel? What are the dimensions roughly correct? And then you would iterate on that and build more and more advanced prototypes to the point that you have something that has the functionality that's pretty close to what your final system would be. So in terms of very specific things we intend for the students to do, that will, we'll decide that once we actually get down to deciding the specifics of the curriculum. But some of the things that we are imagining, the types of things that we imagine students might end up doing include things like designing, say, environmental sensors. You might design a printed circuit board that has certain sensors on it that measure pollutant levels or measure temperature in the water, etc. You might actually work on designing things in assistive tech. That's actually an area in which prototypes of different levels of fidelity would actually work really well. So we think that students will have many opportunities to work at design and fabrication at different levels of resolution. And the types of facilities that Tom mentioned before actually would be really well suited for this.
But John, there is an open-endedness to this also, that students, we will have university makerspace in the building. Students don't necessarily have to be affiliated with engineering or majoring in engineering to come into the building and to start, tinkering and putting things together and talking to the students that are in the building and faculty and seeing what happens. This notion of improvisation, if you will, in a makerspace to see what you can create. And then, as Siddharthan said, to get it to a level of iteration where you have a prototype that you can then go and field test. And that's how we envision some of our capstone experiences and some of the experiential experiences for the students, that they will, having worked with the user very early on, will have the opportunity to then go deploy and field test their idea and see, hey, what we designed in that new building, what we designed on Boston College, is it really going to work in the ecosystem that it's designed to work in? Are users going to adapt it? Can it be sustainable? The answer is we don't know. If it is, great. If not, we will come back and we'll iterate that design even more based on the experience that the students just had in the field.
And if I can add to Tom, I think a lot of learning takes place outside the formal classroom.
Right.
And hence, this particular test kitchen of a building that Tom is talking about is something that we hope that will encourage multiple disciplines working together, and then engineering also being an active participant.
Great, thank you. I have maybe just a couple of more questions before we yield to questions from the audience. I think I'm going to go back to you, Father Kalscher. You've already addressed this to some extent, But Boston College has, as a Jesuit university, has always advocated the power, the value, the critical importance of a broadly based liberal arts education, in addition to areas of specialty or expertise. Why would you say that the liberal arts, the core curriculum here at Boston College, is so important to the human-centered engineering major?
I really think embedding the human-centered engineering major in the liberal arts context, or seeing it as part of a liberal arts curriculum, is what will keep engineering human-centered in part. We really want all students at Boston College to think about who are they becoming as people. So a former leader of the Jesuit order, now about 20 years ago, gave a speech where he said, the measure of our schools is who our students become. The success or failure of Boston College as a Jesuit school is measured by who the students become as people. What kind of people do they become? And I think Jesuit education from the beginning has really focused on the liberal arts as the vehicle for education, because they help us to become whole people. So Father Kolvenbach, the leader of the Jesuits at the time, answered his question, who do we hope our students become, by saying, we want our students to become well-educated, whole people of solidarity, who are prepared to take responsibility in the world, who are prepared to work for the common good. Well-educated, whole people of solidarity, ready to make a difference in the world. And I think the liberal arts education that we offer at Boston College is part of that becoming a whole person, and seeing a range of ways of knowing, a range of ways of asking questions, a range of ways of asking what it is to be a human person, what can I know about the world, that contribute to that wholeness. And I think for engineering to be human-centered, engineering students need to be engaged in that project. So we were hoping to create something that is integrated in a way that creates that wholeness, so that you're not just studying engineering and then doing the core curriculum and not making any connections, but actually thinking about how all these different disciplines work together to help us understand what it is to be a whole human being, attentive to being part of the human family, and prepared to take responsibility for acting for the common good in the world. I think that's what a liberal arts education is about.
And if I could add to that, so if you look at what are the major challenges facing society today, that engineering may be something that is a preparation that students could address, whether it's global warming, pollution, etc. All of these issues have very significant societal dimensions to them. They are not just technical issues. Technical aspects of the problem are certainly important, but perhaps more important is the human aspect. And in order for an engineer to be really truly effective, to really tackle the big challenges that and actually address the challenges and opportunities facing the world, having a much more humanistic outlook and education in life is actually is critical. So
Great, thank you. My final question, and I think I will ask this of Tom and Father Kalsher perhaps combined to bring us home before we turn to our audience. What, we haven't enrolled our first class yet, but we will in 2021. They'll graduate in 2025. At this early stage in our planning, what hopes do we have for the graduates of not only this first class, but all the human-centered engineering majors who leave Boston College? What are our big dreams for these people as they go out into the world representing Boston College?
Well, I'll let Father Kalsher take that, and then I'll follow up.
Well, I hope that graduates of this program are actually prepared to do a range of different things, so they can imagine what they would do in industry, or what they would do in further graduate study, or what they would do in a range of occupations. But more fundamentally, my hope is that they're people who are prepared to make the kind of difference in the world that we're talking about, that they actually become this kind of person who can see the challenges and opportunities of our world, and who is prepared to meet them, prepared to act on them, prepared to advance the greater good in the midst of all that. Earlier in the conversation, Siddharthan talked about the reflection dimensions of the program. And I think reflectiveness and discernment are an important dimension of what we want from our students at Boston College. So I'd hope that graduates of the human-centered engineering program are prepared to be reflective and discerning as they think about the problems and challenges that they face. We hope that Jesuit education helps students to be attentive, to be reflective, and to be loving, to make choices to advance the greater good. And all of those things, I think, are part of the human-centered engineering program. We want students to be attentive to all the things that are going on around them in the world, attentive to all the different ways of knowing, attentive to the needs and challenges, to reflect on that. What does that mean? What am I learning? How is it calling me to act? And then be prepared to use their knowledge to, in a loving way, help create a better world, be engineers who can help to create a more humane world, a world in which the common good is more and more realized for all the members of the human family. So we have high aspirations for this program, I think, as we have high aspirations for all of our programs and all of our graduates. And as I said at the beginning, I think this kind of program very much fits the mission of Boston College. And I think it's the right program for us to be launching at this moment.
I would just add, I would hope that our students will leave BC asking, what does the world need of me? You know, what does the world need of my skill set, that I have developed, my knowledge that I've developed at BC? What does the world need of me? And I would hope our students will step up, as they have in the past, and they do, and become leaders, even in situations that might seem hopeless. And, you know, one of the drivers of this program is we have complex problems, very complicated, complex problems facing people and the planet. And we need leaders. We need graduates of Boston College to step up and say, look, we're going to tackle this problem. We're going to work to find solutions. And to get back to something Siddharthan said a moment ago, you know, an engineering solution alone isn't going to answer this, is not going to address the problem. We're going to provide our students with the skill sets to collaborate across disciplines, to know when to call in the economists, to know when to call in the political scientists, to know when to call in the chemist or the social worker or the behavioral biologist, you know, to understand a problem and to work with it, to develop a holistic solution that can be deployed and sustained. So that's what I hope. And I think we'll deliver on it. You know, look at the caliber of our students, and certainly the caliber of the students that are on this Zoom call this evening. So that's my expectation.
Well, thank you all. I think we've done a great job of setting the framework for this major that we're all very excited about. I'll invite once again now students, we've got some great questions that I'm going to throw to the panelists, but if you do have questions on your minds, feel free to add them to the Q&A function. The first question that's come in to my colleagues is, and this sort of came up with one of your responses, but I think maybe we just want to make it crystal clear for the audience. Will it be possible for a student in another major at Boston College to take classes in human-centered engineering? Will that be, even if they can't earn the major, can they take some classes, or are they just gaining access to the building where the maker spaces are and things like that?
Siddharthan.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so we do have some classes that we intend for students outside the major to also be able to take. Some of the classes that are very specific to the major, if there's space and the students have satisfied the prerequisites, we could certainly accommodate them. But I envision that most of the core courses for the human-centered engineering would be pretty well subscribed. So,
and we've also already with Sinan, we've already begun launching some of these courses. So we have a design thinking course right now that we've offered now in several iterations. We have additional design type courses on the books, and including implementation science. Those courses will be open to all students. Enrollment numbers, if it allows it, which it should. So, and we see that those types of skills applicable to everyday life, regardless of what your major is.
Yeah, I mean, if I can just add,
Yeah.
There are three kinds of courses that we have. There's the foundational, where other people can participate, as Tom mentioned. There are those engineering fundamentals, hardcore engineering courses, which require certain prerequisites and abilities in mathematics, etc., for students to be part of that. And those could be, as Siddhartha mentioned, pretty well subscribed. Then there are courses that are coming towards the end, which are more of the projects, collaborative projects, in which we want to encourage people to participate in those experiences.
Yeah.
Great. This next question, I think, is an important one. And I think the composition of this panel for the students probably confirms the fact that engineering is a male-dominated field at this point. So very logical question from one of our students: how will BC support underrepresented groups such as women and students of color interested in the human-centered engineering major? Would one of you be willing to take that on?
Sinan. Sinan and I discussed this at length, and he's much, go ahead.
So our intent for this particular program has been to be able to attract students who are not necessarily coming out of just the well-endowed school districts that do a lot of extracurricular work and are well prepared in the classical sense. There are also those students who are very well prepared, who have aptitude towards engineering, who may be great in math and sciences, but may not be part of they may be from an underserved area of those school districts. We at BC are creating this program to be able to attract students from various different socioeconomic background over here. Also, John, the work that you're doing with QuestBridge is another effort that we hope that we can attract students to the human-centered engineering program. The third thing is, because this is a program that is well entwined with the liberal arts, our hope is that it does not project the perception of it's just a male-dominated, engineering, hardcore engineering field. It is something that we want students to be going through in terms of experiencing and being able to participate in all kinds of both making activities as well as high-end, high-fidelity machine and prototyping that will be conducive for all genders as part of the program. And there are institutions that have been very successful in increasing their women participants and population in those institutions just around here in the Boston area. So we feel quite enthusiastic about that portion of things.
Yeah, Sunan brings up a very good point. Boston College, just effective this upcoming academic year, 2021, this recruitment cycle, has joined 41 other schools in the remarkable nationwide network of QuestBridge, which really identifies and helps us to recruit and enroll the top scholars who are from very low income or underrepresented populations on our campus. So we're looking forward to joining that network and identifying some students who we know will be great candidates for human-centered engineering. I might also just add that BC really does have a track record of supporting students from lower income, underrepresented backgrounds. I would cite, for example, the Gateway program that's been remarkable for supporting these students in pre-med program. We've had great results there, lining students up with mentors. So we do have that kind of commitment to not only seeing you interested in this major, but supporting you once you get to Boston College.
I'd add one other thing too, as we have the virtue of beginning something from scratch. And so as we're hiring faculty, for example, we can be very attentive to how are we building this faculty and how are we paying attention to diversity. And I'd note that an important hire that we've just made in the recent months is the hire of Laura Steinberg to be the executive director of the Institute for Integrated Science and Society, the Schiller Institute. And she's a very successful woman, civil and environmental engineer, who I think can model the sort of accomplishments that we hope for from the students who will come to this program. So those sorts of concerns, I think, are very much at the heart of what we're dealing with as we build a faculty from scratch.
Sure. Thank you. This is perhaps a logistical question that might be in the works, but I'll ask my panelists to see if they can think it through with me. If a student arrives at Boston College not in the human-centered engineering program at point of application, would there be an opportunity to transfer into the major in sophomore year? We maybe have not thought that through completely, but I figured I would throw it to you anyway.
Siddharthan, you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so it will be challenging because we have a limited number of slots. And if there is space and if the student who wants to transfer can show that there is a realistic path forward for them to complete the degree in the amount of time that they would like to, then it certainly will be possible. But I think given the limited amount of space that we have, this will be a scenario that will arise if students, if we don't get the number of students we expect actually enroll, or if somebody drops out, and the student who wants to transfer in has a lot of transfer credits, this might be possible. But unlikely is what I think.
Okay.
John, on that point, though, I think to emphasize the following, and this is somewhat at the foundation of what we do here at BC. Advising is critical, and if you're a incoming freshman and you think that you might be interested in engineering, but you're not sure, you're going to sample the water your first fall semester, maybe your entire freshman year, the best advice I can give is to reach out to one of us, reach out to the faculty advisors, and let's sit down with you early on and have some conversations and see what courses you need to be thinking about as a freshman that might give you the best chance of transferring into the program in your sophomore year, should you decide to do that.
Thank you, Tom. We're coming up on about 5 minutes away from the end of the program, so if anybody does have a last question, feel free to submit it through the Q&A function. I do have one that is specifically targeted for the admission office that I'll just read and respond to. If you apply to and are not admitted into the human-centered engineering major, will Boston College, whoops, it just moved on me, consider you for acceptance through another major or college? And thank you. It's a work in progress. This is what we're discussing. Our common application goes live on August 1st. But right now we are thinking about the possibility of having you, as I said at the start of this session, applying specifically to the human-centered engineering major under the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences, but offering you a second option. If not admitted to that, would you want to be considered for another program at Boston College? So we haven't quite ironed out the details on that, but my guess is that we will have that backup option for you if not admitted into human-centered engineering, because it is a very small major. Right. And it looks like perhaps one more question has come in, and just forgive me while I take a look at it. Since this is a new engineering program, will students have the opportunities to learn from established innovators in industry and develop their research with guidance from leaders in engineering that the school might be connected to, such as alumni? What a really sharp question. Would you guys like me to repeat that for you, or did you hear it the first time?
We heard it the first time, and it's something we have talked an awful lot about.
Okay.
So I'll start, and then my colleagues can correct me. So a key aspect of what we want to do in this program is to integrate it with industry. And industry has problems. They have technical problems. They have complex problems that they need solutions to. And we want to partner with industry and have them work with us and our students to help define projects that team projects that not only benefit our students in all the ways that we've already discussed here this afternoon, but also benefit industry. We have an extensive alumni database, if you will, a group of alumni, and many of them have expressed interest in being involved in our program. Not only in terms of offering experiential opportunities for students, internships for students, but also rolling their sleeves up and coming onto campus and providing mentoring and perhaps guest lectures in courses and things of that nature. So this is something that we view as one of the critical aspects of the program as we roll it out. Sinan.
Yeah, and we happen to be located in one of the best places where it's the biotech corridor. There are industries located all around us. And Boston College already does a great job in bringing speakers and participants on campus. We hope to catalyze that and build on that practice to start bringing in a lot more industry folks. The Board of Regents that consists of alums, as Tom pointed out, are great representative of that group. Actually, but John, I wanted to bring our attention to the essay in terms of entering over here.
Okay.
There will be a prompt for entering students to submit an essay, which is a very important piece that any prospective applicant needs to pay attention to in terms of responding and expressing their interest and their viewpoint in wanting to become an engineer, in wanting to change the world, and it's providing what their background and experience and why should we consider them. So that's something for them to pay attention to.
Yes, we mentioned that at the start, and they can view that question on the admission website, and I believe we've also added to the human engineering website, as the human-centered engineering website. So take a look at it, especially if this session this afternoon has inspired you in the way that it's inspired me. I'd like to thank my panelists for really making this a great session. And before I close, I just want to recognize all of you students who've joined us this afternoon and asked such good questions and given us your time. We're acutely aware of the fact that you're either rising seniors in high school or rising juniors in high school. Like the students here at Boston College, you were uprooted from your educational experience this year in March. And it's been a very challenging, difficult period for, I'm sure, you as students, as part of your families. Our country obviously is still dealing with the impact of COVID-19. So we want to be cognizant of that, and we know that it's made your college search process that much more difficult. You probably had college visits planned in the spring. You probably plan to be out on the road this summer. And all of that's been taken away from you. And that's going to make your college search a little bit more difficult. I hope a session like this afternoon is beneficial to you. We really invite you to stay engaged with Boston College as much as possible. As you've seen, we're putting as much content up as we can about this institution. We have 18 undergraduate students working with us this summer that you can set up individual chats with to learn about their experiences here at BC. So our hearts go out to you. We hope that you and your families are safe and healthy, and we hope that the summer is restorative for you and leads into a really great academic year, whether you're going into your senior year or your junior year. We're really blessed to have you joining us this afternoon. Keep in mind some of the things that Father Kalsher said here this afternoon. BC is a Jesuit university. Of course, we're interested in providing you a first-rate education, but we really pride ourselves on doing more, as the Jesuits would say, the magis. We're about the magis. We're about making this experience more. Our vision for our graduates is that we're educating them to be men and women for others. We're educating them to be, as Father Kalsher has said, whole people, thinking people, people who are really looking not only at the way in which their education benefits themselves, but can be turned to the benefit of society and human beings and the planet. So we are with you in spirit. We wish you a very restful and enjoyable summer. Good luck with investigating colleges. We hope to see you as applicants at Boston College. We hope to see you on our campus at some point when we are past the worst of this pandemic. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.